de facto chairman.
De facto chairman or I don't know. But you had a question just before you took the break.
Yeah, that about a month ago I talked to a seasoned Ugandan who is a new MP and who said he was taken aback by just the level of manipulation of parliament. The parliament is manipulated by State House, manipulated by ministers, manipulated by permanent secretaries. That the figures we see, when we see $142 billion shillings, going to Basaja and we say, wow, this is or X amount going to whoever, that's more like a third or less than a third of the amounts of money that are misused, but we never get to hear of. That lots of figures are quietly swept under the carpet by the committees. The committees, especially accountability committees, are not as independent as they would have us believe, and so maybe there has to be a change.
You remember during the passing of the budget for Chogam specifically, and Geoffrey Kanya talking about was it Geoffrey Kanya or I think it was the Aru County MP. Odongoto, who talked about money exchanging hands in banks on Parliament Avenue, just to make sure that the process is smooth in Parliament. But Angelo, would like to stay a little more on the question of the opposition alternatives to the current economic situation. You had some questions about.
Well, there are major issues that I feel don't come up for debate. Like one of my major interests is, of course, on the oil and energy sector. And currently we are facing a crisis. Now, yesterday we discussed with Mr. Mahakanizi what to do about the fuel situation, and the government doesn't have any real, novel ideas to mitigate the cost of fuel, even if it signals to other products an increase in prices. I can now inform you that as of Friday, this Friday, there will be another shortfall of 50 megawatts. Because the Agreco plant, which was supposed to be decommissioned in December,
that could have started because for the first time in 4 years I've lived where I live. For the first time today, I've had no power for 24 hours. For the first time in 4 years, it went off at 7 yesterday, last evening. Up to now, it hasn't come back.
Well, there's more bad news. I've been informed.
It was just a line cut.
No, it's big.
The rats ate his line.
It had nothing to do with the.
No, we already have a shortfall of 50 megawatts.
Bunga Buziga is the line which is on permanent on. And the
no, actually, no. Surprisingly, Buziga gets more power cuts than Bunga.
There is one alternative that government has proposed in cabinet today on particularly fuel, trying to open something we started discussing several years ago. I think 2006 actually, when we started discussing the southern route, and they are giving 150 shillings per litre of petroleum imported by an oil company through the Tanzania route. Yeah, that was a cabinet discussion this afternoon.
Well, so here's a situation we are facing, Honorable Nandala, and we would like to hear from the opposition, if only because in times of crisis like this, opposition movements tend to thrive. And I don't feel like in the case of, apart from the street protests, really in the realm of ideas and convincing the public that you are a government in waiting, that you're succeeding.
No, I want to start from what Bernard brought. First and foremost, I think we have a problem in our banking sector, which we all agree that it's time we open Bank of Uganda. That's number one. The major problem we're having is the central bank. And when somebody says he's independent in what? And the parliament is supposed to oversee Bank of Uganda. Independence does not mean a man is out on his own. But you can see what they have done. They have mismanaged the public resources. And the moment you mismanage public resources, even IGG, even CID should have entered by now in central bank to investigate, but they are fearing.
This Bank of Uganda team has been lauded local and regional and internationally for its good handling of the financial sector in this country.
I think if they had handled it well, I don't think we would have reached here. Even the chief of the central bank himself one day declared to Financial Times that they came and robbed the bank by 740 million. And he said there's a lot of problem. You're chief. But
You are head of Public Accounts Committee. Why didn't you look into the central bank?
no, the central bank falls under
Kosase.
Kosase. But
The opposition headed Kosase.
yes.
Why didn't it look
No,
into
you see,
central-
they raised the issue at that time. You recall when he said he's independent, but we have got we have looked at the law and we have got interpretation. His independence does not mean he manages public resources, and he is supposed to report to the committee of Kosasa. And I can tell you, as the leader of opposition, he is going to report. I have already initiated the process, written to my chairperson, that he must make sure that your program immediately you invite the central governor,
Yeah, and I think that's important just to add on, because in that interview with the Financial Times, Mutevile said that the president promised him that they will fix the reserves once the money has gone out, the 740 million. He doesn't say what. He doesn't go into detail. It would be interesting now that is in the public. Nobody is denying that this money didn't come from the central bank. It's there, but it would be nice to see some of that correspondence. What did the president actually promise? What was the nature of that promise? What was the content of that? And it's also, I think, important to have a sense, because the president has to appear before Parliament once every year to make a State of the Nation address, to account. He accounts somehow. We demand accountability from just about everybody. We cannot have one institution in this country that is not accountable to anyone. It's only accountable to its own board, a board which is rarely changed.
The governor is the chairman. The deputy is the vice
It
governor.
has become incestuous, and I think it's time that the central bank at least appeared, Mutevile or his deputy appeared before Parliament and explained, answered a few questions. For example, when they're mopping money out of the economy, out of circulation, or when they're putting in dollars, because right now that's what the thing is, the dollar is so scarce, and so you want more dollars in the system. How does that process actually work? Because there's talk of a cartel, there's talk of connivance between some people in the central bank and the 2 or 3 commercial banks that get this money. That they also have, people that come and actually scoop this money out of the system. It's not allowed to circulate and solve the problem. So it would be nice to ask questions. How does this process actually work? Is it backed up by some documentation? Can we see, the last time you intervened in the market, that this happened because of X, Y, Z, because of your intervention, and not necessarily other factors as well. If there were other factors, because Ugandans abroad had, maybe sent in money, or because coffee, we got a good price on coffee, and also just how much does the intervention change things, and how much does it not change things? I think those would be fair and legitimate questions.
Over to you, Nandala, actually, because it is you've
Asking
been
the
in
question,
the house for a while, and you've headed important committees. Of course, it's not news that the central bank is only independent in the exercise of its duties.
It's only on macro.
No, it's independent to the extent that it's exercising its duties.
Yes.
You have a right to inquire how those duties are performing in the public interest.
Oversight.
Yes, and I can show you a ruling, because I've been looking at the central bank for the last 3 weeks. There's a ruling by Justice Segonda Ntende that clearly states that discretion of the central bank, is subject to to question. And this idea that the bank is beyond scrutiny is just sheer nonsense.
In any case, they only have that because of the law of the Central Bank Act. So that's a law that can be amended by Parliament. So it's not. This independence doesn't come from God.
You committed, Mr. Mafabi, that you just promised us and our listeners that you will ensure that the central bank governor appears before Parliament.
One of the things I want to tell you, which is immediate to appear, because I've talked to also now you have talked what other account does the other committee, Public Accounts Committee, looks at an account called Consolidated Fund Account, which is under which is managed by Ministry of Finance. I'll give you an example. For example, the governor central bank went the money for Basaja Balaba never went out like where you go and sign a check and give money. What he did, the governor central bank guaranteed, you understand, money. And when he guaranteed, the money was not, the it was never paid by Basaja. And what happened? The central governor drew money from the consolidated fund
and cleared the date they had guaranteed. But is that a new is that a new story? Because
no, I'm coming, my brother, on this one so that you understand. You can only draw money from the consolidated fund with the warrant of the Auditor General, and the warrant of the Auditor General will come in play after Parliament has approved the money. So what we're trying to say that under what law did the governor Bank of Uganda draw our money from the consolidated? He has abused authority entrusted to him. I wanted to give you that.
The last time we investigated stories on releases of funds from the central bank to Basa Jabalaba a few years ago, the same process was being followed.
No, the other time what they did, they created an account called the deferred expenditure account, and there's an account which collects money which helps businessmen called the Apex funds.
Yes.
So what they did at that time, they debited those accounts. They went in negative. Are you getting it? When they debited, they went to negative. They transferred it to the deferred account. When they deferred account, of course, the deferred account became a contentious issue. That's when they went to the consolidated fund by getting parliamentary approval.
Let's take a commercial break.
It's live. It's hot.